Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2024 World Chess Championship match between the champion Ding Liren from China and the challenger Gukesh D from India. This is game number 11 out of a possible 14-game match. Otherwise, we play a tiebreak. It is 5-5 and the match has been peaceful for a while. But man, every single time Gukesh shows up with the white pieces, a fight breaks out. These two cannot keep their hands off of each other, especially when Gukesh has the white pieces. And today was no different. And today was a big moment in this match. That's all I've got to say. A recurring storyline with Gukesh having the white pieces has been, will he go back at some point to the move pawn to e4, because Ding has shown that he is playing the French. And of all the openings that Ding is playing, the French defense, according to the computer, is the worst one. That's just the reality. The engine doesn't really like the French defense. But instead, Gukesh goes back to knight f3. Let's not forget that we've had d5, g3, g6 played by Ding. This time, on the second move of the game, instead of playing g3, Gukesh plays c4. Now, c4 is definitely a provocative move. According to modern engines, moves like c4 are not particularly great because they allow black to play d4. But d4 is a very provocative move because it, walks the territory into white's position. White can then take space on the queen side like this. White can play e3, for example. There are a lot of things that white could do. I had a game, I have a game on my YouTube channel, which you can go watch, called, the best game I ever played. And I was playing with the black pieces, and I went d4 against Grandmaster Emilio Cordova from Peru. He went b4. White has two choices here, either to attack right away or to play b4. And that's, b4 is the move chosen. And, here, black has many options. Black can play f6. This is a very strange move, but you just try to play e5. The move that I played against Emilio is I played this very sexy, if I may say. It's a great, great, great move. Nobody knew it back when I played it. It was pretty cool. I played it before it was cool. The point is it's a gambit, and you play e5, and you get all the center. So g5 was a very fun move that I managed to play on the board once myself. Ding plays c5, however, which according to the moves database is one of the more popular moves. And so now white, it's one of the most provocative positions ever seen in a World Championship match, like on move 3. And now Gukesh plays e3, and now something completely unreal happens. Like, unreal is an understatement. So this position, after the move e3, black playing c5, white can go b4, right? Well, in this game, it was b4, c5, e3. So it's the same position. This position has been reached 250, maybe 300 times in the database. It's a gambit. You play a gambit, and you give up this pawn. So Gukesh is playing a gambit in the World Championship match. First of all, gangster behavior. Like, awesome stuff. But Ding plays knight f6 after 38 minutes of thought. He thinks for 38 minutes on the fourth move, which we've seen. Like, Ding really loves to think, but yo, listen, I'm not playing in a World Championship match ever in my life, but Ding has under an hour on the fifth move. These guys get 2 hours for 40 moves. Ding just burned half of it in 5 turns. This is crazy. Man, if you're a Ding fan, that's one of my alarms to wake up. If you're a Ding fan, he causes you some stuff up here, man. He causes you're like, yo, Ding, move. So Yeah, and basically Ding rejects the gambit. And if anybody watching this is confused, like, basically if white takes this pawn, his pawns get stuck. And Ding is able to take the center and go here. So really, the only thing that Gukesh is doing, he's like, all right, well, you don't want my pawn, no problem, I'm going to play a3. I'm going to play a3. And Ding probably gets Gukesh completely out of preparation, I would imagine, or close. But he doesn't take the gambit. Gukesh goes here. Now we have our pawn transformation in the center, and we've got kind of like what's called a Benoni pawn structure, which you don't have to worry about it, but you know, now you can tell your friends that today in the World Chess Championship, there was a reverse Benoni pawn structure. They're going to think you're really smart and cute, and maybe you'll finally get to, you know, take your crush on a date. And, you know, then he goes here and he takes the bishop pair. Also tell them about the bishop pair. Trust me. All crushes love to hear about the bishop pair. This is a massive success, and like if you think about what White's goals were in the opening, White took space on the queen side, and White got that, and now White has space on the queen side and some pressure. I mean, this opening has been an absolute victory. This cannot be understated how much of a victory this is. We have Queen C7 played, but now we get kind of into the nitty gritty, and rather than playing the move C5, which was really, really, really nice according to the machine, to Stockfish, trying to take some space and also activate this bishop. Obviously, there's a lot to calculate here, and Gukesh says, you know what, I don't have to rush. Like, see, I'm very pragmatic. Just going to play D3. But, of course, it does allow A5. And this is what Ding is relying on. He's relying on counterplay on the pawn on B4. White has two bishops, a little bit more queenside space, but White also has 6 out of 7 pawns literally on home squares. Like, they haven't moved yet. That's pretty crazy. So A5 on the board, and now, you know, you play B5 to keep the position closed. Yeah, and all of a sudden, boys and girls, like, I don't care about the hour on the clock. Ding is better with black again. Ding has managed, like, every time Gukesh picks a fight, Ding has managed to react well. He just is so slow. 51 minutes. 10 moves have gone by. Do the math. You get 2 hours for a game of 40 moves. It means every 10 minutes, you're really supposed to spend only 30 minutes. 10 moves, you're only supposed to spend 30 minutes. He spent 70 on 10 moves. The math isn't mathing. He's going to have to speed up at some point. Well, guess what? Gukesh now spends an hour. Bro. What? Gukesh? This is according to the chess.com timestamps. All right. 1 hour, 17 minutes, 17 seconds. Man. He couldn't figure out a plan. He must have thought and thought and thought and was thinking, what went wrong? You know, he's struggling to develop the pieces. The advantage of the bishop pair is not felt. And after G3, Ding plays knight C5 in 9 seconds. Gukesh plays bishop G2. And now, Ding goes here. And the point of knight FD7 is that he's simply going to E5, and there's nothing Gukesh can do to stop it. If Gukesh plays the move bishop to F4, then black plays E5 with a pawn and finishes up development and castles. Ding is unironically chilling. Like, the opening was a total victory for Gukesh, but he miscapitalized on the opportunity to take the advantage of the position because he could have played the move C5 here, and after A5, he would have been able to at least put a bishop on B5, and this is how he had to play it, like this. After A takes B4, you have another gambit, but White's got too many weaknesses on the queen side. So because Gukesh did not take advantage of it the right way, he is being absolutely sliced and carved up here by Ding. Queen F4, and Ding puts the rook on D8, absolutely locks down the center. D3 has never been a bigger weakness. There's never been a bigger weakness in chess than the pawn on D3. And now Gukesh has to play one of the ugliest moves ever, which is rook D1. It really, I mean, what else can you do, right? Rook D1, you have to defend the pawn. By the way, Stockfish, for the record, hates playing moves like that. It much prefers to give them away. Knight d2, if knight d3, there's queen e4. Stockfish relies on open, dynamic lines. It would almost never put a rook behind a pawn. This is the difference between humans and engines. Engines are like, disposable pawn, I don't need it. You're like, disposable queen and rook and knight and also that bishop and also my king. Like, it just would give the pawn away. Now, at this point, Ding has to choose the next plan of the game. To me, f6, g5, e6, bishop d6. All those things seemingly do make sense, but Ding goes g6, which, in case it's not obvious from the feedback bar, it did not like very much. The idea of g6 was, to play h5, bishop h6. He wants to put the bishop on that diagonal. Like, to me, stomping at the queen to kick the queen completely out of the position makes a lot of sense. And, if you stop that, then e6 and bishop d6 is really powerful. And, I mean, black he's got a very, very, very good position. The point is that he can now take the pawn because of the pin, right? So e6, bishop d6 stops the pin. a4 played by Gukesh, which is a move that makes perfect sense. Like, he's trying to defend himself. He's trying to put something on that square in the future. Maybe rook a3, by the way. But, I mean, it's crazy that, we go for this, and now the whole game flips. Now the entire game flips. And here Gukesh finds this nice idea of b6. He has absolutely struck first. The queen hits this. The queen, is standing around, and all the pieces are hitting, but b6 is the money move. Ding had to be faster. So if the same line had been reached with bishop d6 and b6, you can simply take it because now there are threats on the queen, like knight takes c4. But because Ding made two pawn moves, he cost himself time. And after b6, you cannot take the queen anymore. The queen cannot take because you would lose the knight. So Ding never solved the problem of the knight. He tried to create counterplay, but he misses the fact that b6 can happen, and now Gukesh is fully back in the game. And how about this? These absolute lunatics have 20 minutes remaining. Both of them, may I say. I don't care who you're a fan of. 21 minutes for Gukesh, 19 minutes for Ding, 22 moves to go. They both have 22 more moves to make, or they lose the game on time, and they have 21 and 19 minutes. We're not even going to get to spend a minute on a move.
What?
What do they expect to happen? Bishop c5, queen c5. The dice have been rolled. Queen e4 from Gukesh, targeting the pawn on b7. Obviously, if he takes it and promotes the b pawn, he's going to be in a winning position, which is why Ding retreats the knight from the center of the board. Equality is still being kept. Maybe Gukesh wants to prove a point. He can play rapid. He can keep up in the faster time control. Knight a3 is the move chosen by Gukesh here to try to infiltrate into the position. And for the third or fourth time in this match, in a moment where there is a close and tense time situation, right? And Ding needs to play a move quickly. He has done this. I called this out to Magnus in our recap. He plays a rook move one square. And here he plays rook d7, and it's not the best move. Instead of that, he should have gone castles. It's not particularly clear to the naked eye why this move is better, but it's just not great to commit a rook here, I suppose for some tactical reasons, and instead put the rook on the b8 square. Like, the queen going back to e2 now, there is rook d6. The rook can be used a little bit more actively, but by committing the rook immediately to d7, it's going to be a little bit more passive. But it's a subtle thing, right? It's a subtle thing. The game is not over, and Gukesh goes backwards. He doesn't even go forwards, right? The best move there was queen e2 for some reason, or rook d1, rook b5, which I can explain to you much easier. The idea is to attack the, the queen. Obviously, you're looking at stuff like this. Maybe the queen could have gone to the b5 square. That would have been pretty legendary. Yeah, none of that really matters, okay? The boys don't have any time. They don't have any time. They have 20 and 15 minutes to make 19 more moves. They cannot think. Knight c2 is the move chosen by Gukesh. Now, you may be wondering still why this pawn hasn't been taken. Rook b1. That's really the problem. And if queen c7, knight b5, knight b5, rook b, even c5 now, with the intention to put the knight forward and double up on the b file. Like, this bishop is just striking out. There is absolutely nothing on the diagonal that that bishop can accomplish. Nothing. All right? Rook d7 chosen. Knight c2 back. Wait a minute. But Gukesh, now, he's lost his pawn. Gukesh lost his pawn. Ding takes it. And he takes it because, for example, if he castled after rook b1, rook b5 is just coming. Like, there's just, and you're never going to win the pawn. So Ding is like, well, now, you know, this is my best opportunity. I'm going to take the pawn on b6 because now, if he plays rook b1, I'm going to go back, and at least his knight went all the way. You know, now it's got to come around that way. It's 19 minutes to 14 minutes. The boys have to make 18 more moves. Gukesh plays rook b1. Ding goes back to c7. But every move is being made relatively quickly. Now the time hasn't changed too much, and the boys have to make 17 more moves. Okay? Rook b5 played. There's pressure on h5. Rook b1. b7 is under attack. Castles from Ding Liren. And now, pandemonium. The last move played here by white was rook b5. If I put this position in front of you and I said, white to move, of course you put the second rook on the file. And then you figure things out, right? Rook b8, rook is passive. Now you go to work. You start improving your position, etc. Gukesh goes knight a1. A backwards retreating move. That knight went to a3, then to c2, and now to a1. The World Championship is going on, and Gukesh is moving a horse around the board to learn how it moves in the corner. I'm joking, but listen, point made. He's trying to play knight b3 and attack this and try to play knight c5. But now, Ding's completely back in the game because he no longer has to play defense. This rook can now be used as a counter-attacking method. Rook d6, this is a step backwards, right? Gukesh needed to keep the pressure on. He needed to move his queen out of the middle so the bishop could be the one putting the pressure instead of the queen. But Ding plays rook b8 and spends almost half of his remaining clock time. I mean, this World Championship is a heart attack waiting to happen. It is a heart attack waiting to happen. Ding obviously did not like that the knight was going to arrive on the square, but if he creates counterplay fast enough, it doesn't matter. Because queen f3, he can play rook f6, he can repeat the moves, and if here, he has rook e5, and I'm trying to think, why is the queen now trapped here? Queen f3, yeah. So he can always create counterplay. That's the key idea, even e5 to try to secure the center. But instead he plays a little bit passively, and now again, Ding can play for rook d6. He should create this counterplay, but he plays, you're about to see it, the first big spike. Now that move makes a lot of sense, but not according to the machine. The machine is not happy with that move. Because the idea is quite simple. You just want to put your rook on e7. Ding thinks he's going to survive like bunker-style defense. He's going to allow in Gukesh's knight, and he's going to put the rook on e7. But the rook needed to go forward, and now it is stuck behind the pawn, and Gukesh has a major opportunity, a major advantage. And the crazy thing is, he can already take the pawn. Because after rook b7, queen c6, takes, bishop c6, the rook is hanging, and if you take, this is terrible. White gets connected past pawns, which are something you should look for in the endgame. But instead of that, we have Gukesh playing rook b1, and now Ding might be back in the game. All he needs to do, he needs to jump his knight in here. He's got to disconnect the pieces. He's got to play knight b4. It's defended by the pawn, you know. Knight takes b7 is going to be played. Gukesh is going to win his pawn back. Gukesh is up a pawn. I don't know if you've been counting, but Gukesh is up a pawn. All the way back here, he gave it up. Remember? It's a breakthrough on the queen side. He played b6. So Ding needs to go knight to b4. And after something like knight b7, the game would continue. It's tense. But instead of that, he goes queen c8. And the threat was not just doubling the rooks on the b pawn. The threat was that you can just take the knight. in this position, that threat does not exist. Like, if queen takes knight, this is not a threat. But by putting the queen on the back rank, this is a brutal skewer tactic. And after pawn takes c6, rook b8, it's simply game over. And if queen takes, bishop takes, it's simply game over. And Gukesh wins game 11 of the World Chess Championship of 2024. And Gukesh takes a 6-5 lead. Unreal. What a game. A game that featured twists and turns and an opening that looked like a success, which Ding totally neutralized, but burnt an hour and 5 minutes on his first 5 moves. Then he chose the wrong plan to capitalize. Gukesh absolutely roared back with counterplay, centralized the pieces. It got very tense here as the boys were rattling off moves. Ding was up a pawn. And then Ding needed to get out of his position a little bit, and he simply never did. And he let Gukesh put all his pieces on the best squares. And at the last moment, when he needed to disconnect the rooks, he missed the forest for the trees. Queen c6 is a knockout, and Gukesh leads 6-5 with 3 games to go. This match has had everything. Oh my goodness, it's so dramatic. Like, I can't even... and for all the short draws that Ding has made, this has been the scary part, because if he loses one game, he is now totally out of time. Ding now has to win. We're about to see if he can do it. That's all I've got for you today. See you all for the next recap. Gukesh, absolutely massive clutch win. We've been saying it might be a 50-50 match. He said that's nonsense. He wins. It was tense. But there you have it. Now get out of here.